what I did was wake up in the morning, tested the air. Like even in my own home, like the certain air beam had to go up to 5, and that was like the worst it had to go. But even in my own home, it went up to like 20, and like that was that like because the windows are closed and everything. Like even just in my own home, I'm not safe with the air. It's like we're breathing, which kind of sucks. Um, and then as you go closer to the high school, and as you go closer to like different places where there's more organizations, like really bad ones, like companies, like it gets like the air like quality gets even worse. And then as well up in Wilmington, I remember a story that everything on her storyline was all red, which is like really, really extremely bad.
Hey guys, it's Angela.
This is John, and this is Art Thinking.
Today we have a group of youth from Youth for Environmental Justice who is dedicated to preserving the environment and educating the public in order to secure a more sustainable future. So guys, how are you guys, first of all?
I'm doing well personally. It's a great day outside, and I'm in perfect health, so everything's all good.
Good, and I'm really tired because of my summer bridge classes. And then I would say that we're not just an environmental group, just because I know that other organizations and clubs, they're like, oh yeah, like they're tree huggers, they're worried about saving the environment. I wouldn't say that our organization is about being tree huggers or saving the environment. Like, yeah, we do help with tree people and plant trees, but I think that it's more about advocating to have an equal environment for everybody. That's what the definition of what do you call it, environmental justice is just making sure that everybody has the basic rights to clean air, clean water, and clean soil. So I wouldn't say that we're just save the world people. We're more of advocating for a better living environment for everybody.
Yeah, I really like that way of thinking and approach to everyone has the right to have clean air, to have nice access to a variety of resources without having to deal with pollution and all that.
I mean, that's our mission statement.
There you go.
Yeah, so first of all, I'm doing well, really good. I have a Saturday class today, which kind of sucks, but it's okay. But yeah, adding on to what Dayana said, I feel like that's a good thing that she said it, because we kind of do get it confused, always when we're talking about environmental racism, because that is our main thing of what we fight against. And also so when people call us tree huggers, but that's not really our thing. What kind of is, but not really. That's not our main focus, because the communities where we represent, from Forest Fire, Stillwater Park, South, basically Southeast LA area, Wilmington, and Richmond. Those are our three branches of CBE. And so basically we are part of the communities that are so full of environmental racism. And we're used to not having clean air, clean water, and clean soils. So that's our main mission, to really fight against, to really have that here, because we are communities of people of color, and we do all deserve that right. Vanessa, go ahead.
Yeah, my answer sounded so dumb.
You're fine, Cassandra. You did great. You did great.
I feel on top of being an environmental group, we're also really big on being a very accepting group. I mean, when recently we had a summer training part of youth action and stuff, and yeah, there's a lot of inclusivity that we have in our programs, whether it be through different races and different identities and different genders or sexualities and all that. And we are a very accepting group, which I think kind of goes in hand with environmental justice, since we are, advocating for everyone's right to good air and basically the common necessities and given rights we're supposed to have. So yeah, I feel what everyone else said kind of just summed up everything, but yeah.
I think that something else that our group really tries to emphasize is that people's lives aren't disposable. That just because we live like in a low income area, we're focused on making sure that we have like equality and environmental justice for everybody.
Yeah, and along with creating like a safe space for all types of people just in our office, we also try to create that safe space around like the community, and we also advocate just for basic human rights. So recently in March, we were going to have like a women's march to show our appreciation for Women's History Month. But sadly, COVID happened, so we couldn't do that.
Right. Wow. That's very like it's really nice to hear like you guys are such a like well-rounded group that like one you're promoting like environmental justice and the other one's like being very open, inclusive to everyone, just having that nice like accepting atmosphere.
Recently, well, I don't know if it's recently, I think it was like last year, we passed our 40th celebration, right, guys?
Yeah.
Yeah, 40 years of
Oh,
organizing.
wow.
Yes. So we had a celebration, and then like Wilmington and Sela celebrated together, but CBE shipped some of our people, like the staff workers that work there, they shipped them out to Richmond or to yeah, if like you're available, they try to ship you out just to like see how Cassandra said, to like say that we support others, and like even though they're part of a different part of our organization, we're still all joined together for the same missions. And I was gonna say, Viri, is Oakland another area that we organize in? Like I'm really bad at geography, so I don't know if Oakland is Richmond.
Richmond falls under East Oakland.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, suck at geography.
All of these places that environmental justice has expanded, where did you guys start off originally?
Yeah, HP High School.
Yeah, when
Yeah,
in Southeast
no.
like high school.
Oh, yeah.
But I think CBE started off up in Richmond. I don't know if I'm wrong, because I know there was the only way that CBE came down to Southeast LA was because the former high school where Dayana, Cassandra, and I went. So it's called Linda Franz Marquez, but before it was called La Montaña and the mountain, and it was basically part of like the 10 freeway that happened back in when the Northridge earthquake happened. Forgot the year, but yeah, like so basically what had happened was that parts of the concrete of the freeway were thrown into that location where the high school now remains. And yeah, so like basically that was the first thing that happened, like that started off environmental racism in like our community of Huntington Park. So basically, CBE was brought down by some community members here in Huntington Park, and that is how like that's one way also how CBE started here in Southeast LA area, as well as because of the high school, because they also started doing summer training. The youth wanted to learn more, and then I don't know if anyone else wants to add because I've been talking way too much.
It's fine, sweetie. I was just gonna say that, like, I just wanted to like emphasize a little bit about what Vivi said. So yeah, the school is named Linda Esperanza Marquez High School after like the woman who like started the organizing work. So basically, how Viri said, La Montaña, where our school now is, there was like this big place of like concrete and like debris all from the freeway. So some guy owned it, and then he was like, "Yeah, you could just put it there." So then like the residents didn't think it was fair that there was like this big mountain in their like surrounding area. So then like they were inhaling all the pollutants and all the degrees. So then the woman, Linda Esperanza Marquez, like started organizing with the people in her area, and then they all started getting together. And then I think at one of the rallies or one of the like marches or speeches or whatever, one of the, I forgot, Viri, the guy whose lung fell, what's his name?
Oh,
Yeah, like this important guy in politics. I think he was like a president or a governor of like some city.
Mm.
Yeah, the mayor of Huntington Park. So like he came to see like what all the commotion was about, and then like the minute that he stepped in, his lung collapsed, and then he was like, "Oh wow, this really is a problem." So like that's when they were first heard, and then I think that this was a really important event because it really showed like the power that people can have when they organize together, when they combat something in their community. And I think this really inspired the youth. And it showed that like the youth are possible in doing anything if we have like the power and the passion.
Right.
Yeah, and if you think about it, this mountain was across the street of people's homes. Like it was like literally across the street from them. And if like the mayor's lung collapsed just from like stepping around that area, can you imagine like the amounts of like danger the neighbors were feeling at that time internally maybe that weren't noticeable at first, but probably developed within time.
Right. Yeah.
Also to add on, I mean, there isn't any safe range of having like lead in your soil. Like you're not supposed to have it. But like yeah, so adding on to what Diana said, that is one company that TB has shut down. Another one, sorry about the plane, it's like passing by if you guys can hear it. But yeah, like another organization that CBE has like shut down was Central Metal. So I live in the city of Wanna Park, and currently that organization is here in Walnut Park. So basically, it was an organization that recycled scraps of metal. And basically, what they did is that they operated upon 12 to 14 acres, which they weren't supposed to. That wasn't part of their contract, as well as they would operate overnight. And then there was a lot of loud noises. They didn't really like manage where like the lead toxins were going into our like to the soil and like the water, so it kind of like contaminated the water surrounding like houses as well. And then as well
Yeah.
as like, it gave a bunch of breathing problems. Don't worry. It gave a
No,
bunch of
yeah.
like breathing problems to people, so like asthma and like adding off of that. Diana and Cassandra, Vanessa wants to add on.
Yeah, I
Sorry,
was just gonna like add just quickly that like how Vidi said the air was going inside people's homes. So like some people would literally wake up and then they would like taste they would taste like a penny or like metal in their mouth. So that just shows you how close like communities are to these to these like areas. And then I was gonna say another thing that we're trying to start organizing in is the area in Watts. There's this recycling company which is called Atlas Recycling, and it's like doing the same thing to like the people, but the only difference is like now not only do we have the area but we have the high school as well, so it's impacting people in Jordan High School. Like somebody in our summer training group said that they go to that school and they said that they weren't allowed to like have a softball game because the air quality was really bad.
Oh. Wow, that's really scary. Just to imagine that, like, in such close approximation of like being able to just inhale in that type of quality of air. So you guys previously mentioned about environmental racism. So can you guys describe more about what it is?
So environmental racism pretty much is how big corporations and big factories pretty much come to communities where it's predominantly people of color because they feel that we are disposable. We're not as important to them as we actually are. So they decide to build factories and all these warehouses and all these things, and it pretty much like affects our health and causes damages to our people. So that's pretty much what environmental racism is. It's like doing stuff to us without like our consent because we didn't say, yeah, you could build this factory right here. They just kind of did that. And so when we fight against it, we're pretty much fighting for like these people to like stop messing with our people pretty much. Like we don't want anybody's health to be affected. We don't want people to die. We don't want people to be tasting metal in their mouth because like Diana mentioned earlier, environmental justice is like the basic belief that everyone has the right to clean soil, clean water, and clean air. And these people, these factory owners and all these big names, they're getting in the way of that.
Yeah, like if you notice, like a lot of the big like Central Metal and the other places that we mentioned that we have like helped or like sued, a lot of them are in Southeast LA, and specifically there are a lot in Vernon, and we actually do like a tour where we go to Central Metal and all that, and you can like smell the differences of air because it smells horrible and stuff like that, and it just goes to show how a lot of the places for these factories and are in, again, places where it's primarily people of color, and unfortunately we have to fight for change, and if we go to primarily white communities and stuff like that, Santa Monica and all of that, we don't see as many factories, we don't see places smelling as bad as that, and it's obvious for a reason. It's clear that the racism is there against when it comes to environment as well as other things, but yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, to add on like smell, right here at around like HP area near Florence Firestone, where Marquez High School is, like oftentimes when we're at school, we often we often smell this like horrible smell like every morning, and it stays there for like the whole morning until we actually leave and go back into our houses, and it's just horrible. Where is it from again? Was it Farmer John's or is it?
Rendering plants.
Oh yeah, a rendering plant, and you could just smell like those dead animals like from far away.
Oh. Wow.
That's
That is
nasty.
really scary. Yeah.
Yeah, wait, I just wanted to emphasize on one thing. So, like, something that we've been working on, and like they keep saying that they're gonna do, is like the fact that this smell can easily be like an approach, or like the fact that it can easily go away by the company. So, something that we've been trying to enforce on them is the fact that they should include a dome, because what they do is they leave like the dead animal body parts on the outside. So imagine how smelly it gets when they leave the dead animal body parts like just on the outside with the sun hitting it. That's why they causes so many smells. So this can easily be stopped if the companies just place a dome over it so the smell stays within the factory instead of going into the community. But like they keep pushing it off and they're like, oh yeah, we're gonna do it, we're gonna do it. So that just shows how like how lenient companies think we are with them, and they show that how like the little respect that they have for communities.
And yeah, we try our hardest to keep these companies accountable for their actions.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but like something that always happens is like these companies, they always claim that they go bankrupt just so they don't have to like pay the necessary fines to like help the community. And that's something that happened with Exide. They're like, oh yeah, we're bankrupt. So like that's why a lot of the areas weren't able to get testing near what impacted them. Yeah, they just claim that they're bankrupt so they don't have to deal with it.
Oh, wow.
What made you guys decided to create YUJ? Was it all of that stuff that you just talked about?
I think Youth Edge was created because when CB was advocating about this kind of stuff that was happening in the community, they saw that youth were actually interested to learn more about these issues. And we personally have seen that a lot in our summer training program with youth, when we would like explain something briefly for the sake of time because we could only fit so much into an hour or two. We saw that they were still interested afterwards. They would still ask questions. So I think like back then they saw this exact same response and decided to create Youth Edge in order to educate the youth on what's going on in the communities.
Adding on to what Cassandra said, I totally agree with every single what she just said. But also I would like to add on that, yeah, so we also started Youth Edge for the youth because I mean here in the community we are the professionals, we are the researchers, we are the products of environmental racism in our community, you know? We know what's happening and we know what we want to change because we don't deserve it. Especially Linda Marquez, an example, we're school, it's a school, but it's already surrounded by different companies, which isn't fair, for us because we shouldn't be scared or we shouldn't be we shouldn't have to be able to go to a school and being afraid of what's going to be around us, especially being surrounded by different companies, that isn't fair, you know. So we are the experts, we do go through this every single day, just even walking down the block, it's kind of you're already smelling all the bad toxins of the different communities and like the different the different organizations that like come to pollute our air, and it kind of like, so I guess that's another reason why we started it, because the youth are like they're like the ones that know everything, and so like they know what they want, and like they will fight to like receive that change. So that's why we also kind of like created it. Then or Vanessa wants to add on. Okay. So yeah, another like thing that we also do. So CBE partnered up with USC and another organization. So what we did with USC was that they gave us air beams. So air beams was to basically test like the toxins up in the air. So we tested that, and we also made a little storyline of what it is to like a day in the life of like my life. So basically, like what I did was wake up in the morning, tested the air. Like even in my own home, like the certain air beam had to go up to 5, and that was like the worst it had to go. But even in my own home, it went up to like 20, and like that was that like because the windows are closed and everything. Like even just in my own home, I'm not safe with the air. It's like we're breathing, which kind of sucks. Um, and then as you go closer to the high school, and as you go closer to like different places where there's more organizations, like really bad ones, like companies, like it gets like the air like quality gets even worse. And then as well up in Wilmington, I remember a story that everything on her storyline was all red, which is like really, really extremely bad measures. Yeah, so basically what happened was that I got the opportunity to go to North Carolina to represent CBE and USC, to basically share what it is to like live here like in a day in the life, like to basically show like all the different companies we have to fight against, because like how we said that CBE does fight for clean air, clean water, and clean soil. So that's what we wanted to show different uh, we wanted to show like, so sorry, I'm forgetting words. We wanted to show different professionals like what it is to be like a youth, and like here in these different types of like communities that fight against environmental racism. And
Yeah. Okay, so I'll just add on like a little part just because I know you guys still have questions. So how Vidi said, we do go to school, or the most of us except Vanessa, we do go to school. We went to school and then this Franza Marquez. So like a recent incident, I think it was like two Valentine's Day, 2 Valentine's Days ago, or one, I'm not sure. But there was like a factory fire in a factory like right after the school. So where the school ended, there's another factory. So like you can literally see when the factory started on fire, like our school HPIM was at lunch. So like there was like big plumes of smoke and everything was like all black. And then all the students were just recording, and then they were looking. And like that's because like we weren't properly trained on what to do. So like a lot of the students, they were like, oh my God, look. And then the school didn't know how to like react to that, and they didn't know what to do. So that I think after that, something that we did for our youth action club was I personally went around asking the teachers about like what they think about having a school so close to like factories, and like just what their opinion was on it. And then they're like, oh, it's because we're not like properly trained, or like our schools aren't provided with like proper training on how to handle these situations, even though we have like so many polluters near us where like things like this can easily happen. And then I think one of the teachers talked about how there was a school in her actual auditorium, and like I think that it burned like the auditorium. I think she went to Garfield High School. So then like other members from our youth action club, which is like the club, the high school club for our organization, they went like snooping around to see what they can find. And then they found like hats, and that's basically why the fire started, was because there was too many like tactile fabrics stacked against each other. So like that's already like an incident waiting to happen. But to have that so close to a high school, it just shows why it's important for us to do the work that we're doing, and how like a lot of people already touched upon. It really takes the community to know what the problems are. So a quote that I really like to say is that it takes the hood to save the hood, because we're the only ones that know what's wrong in our community.
Yeah, I think it's quite like eye-opening to get to know how the environment is like for you guys when you guys go to school. Because like for me, like my personal experience, like I was lucky enough to never have to like get to experience like having these like problems so near like schools, affecting like youth in their like education. And then so I think it's really nice to see like how you guys had this like certain scenario of like having all these different types of because like bad situations, just like having glass, having like breathing in the terrible air quality, and having turning that into like action, into stepping it up and doing something about it. I think that's really great. Yeah, so on a different note, so we noticed that you guys included environmental related protests as part of your highlights on Instagram. So like, can you guys tell us more about like, did you guys participate in these protests? Were there any like specific moment that left a deep impression on you? Or like, how was the overall experience?
I didn't go.
Yeah, me either. I know it's a big. I know. I think it was. So the main focus. There was a protest that happened up in San Francisco. It was about climate change. That was a big one that they did. And I heard it was from like the people that went. I heard it was really fun. I heard it was like changing because so first I guess the protest was like kind of like boring and kind of dull. And like the chants and like CBE, we are like a little like close family, you know, like not we're not just like members part of it, like we're all really close together. We're like a small little family. Even like with adults, like we're really close to them too, you know. And yeah, like they decided to like do a bunch of chants to like really like rally up the whole like community that was there, you know, to like really show that people power that we like to do. And yeah, that was one of the protests. Another one, we attend like different like marches. So like the women's march that does happen like every March, you know, as well as like other different marches. If anyone else would want to add on.
Yeah, I could on. Another thing is that like we do try to attend Pride just because like we want to express that we're in a safe space, so we're like open to everybody. And I think that besides marches and protests, we also do like a lot of organizing work for the community. So like we a small march that I went to was against the expansion of the 710. So basically the 710 freeway is a freeway in Sela, Southeast Los Angeles, that's currently 8 lanes, but they're trying to expand it to 16 lanes. So that's just a problem because in order to build a freeway, they have to like destroy homes and destroy areas. So like something that CBE did was the fact that we went door knocking to the community because like a lot of the members didn't actually know what was gonna happen in their community. That just shows how like these industries, they don't inform the community properly. So like they just like spring it upon them. But like, you know, people live there, that's their home. So then we did door knocking for these community events that we were holding. And then we actually did have like a little march for that. So it was like really cool because like we just marched around areas that were around the 710. Like we had really cool chants, and then like we actually got the news to show up. So that was really cool. And then like something that always sticks with me from that is like this guy kept chanting, he was like, people over profit, period. And I was like, that's right, because our lives are not disposable.
Cassandra, you want to go ahead and add anything?
Yeah, I was gonna say, along with like the protests and stuff, along with like going to Pride and attending protests, in Stella as well in the city of Huntington Park, there was also another protest. It wasn't like anything big. It was kind of like a last minute thing because in HP we're considered kind of like a safe area for immigrants and like people of color, and so that's how it should be. It's always has been like that and how it's gonna be. But the chief of HP police was found to be working with ICE, and ICE pretty much is the people who separate families and take immigrants away and pretty much tries to send them back to where they came from. And since our area is supposed to be like a safe zone, it kind of was not cool. It was not cool at all. Like people getting taken away. I believe there was like about like 20 something people taken away in just like a year, and which was really heartbreaking. Those are people's family. That's someone's brother. That's someone's sister. Someone's comadre. And so we attended a city council meeting in HP one night on a school night. It was a Tuesday night, cold Tuesday night. But they decided to cancel the meeting because they were talking about something I guess they thought more important, quote unquote, more important. So we were there waiting, and when we heard that the meeting was going to get canceled and pushed for another time, we didn't see that as okay at all, because this is an issue that affects us, because we are people of color. These are our people. These are our people. These are our families. Even though we may not personally know them, they're still familia. And so it was like a small group of people, probably like no more than, way less than 50 people. But we had like banners already ready in the car. We had like chants ready, and we just started protesting around the city hall. Sorry, if I pause, I'm kind of cold, so I'm like shivering a bit. Um, and yeah, and I remember we were just like all gathered around inside the city hall waiting area, just chanting and chanting. And we even when we walked around, the police started coming by, and we just like stood like right next to them. We passed by each other like that, like really close to each other, and we just kept on chanting until we had to go home, because obviously it was a school night and we couldn't stay that long.
Mm-hmm.
I actually have like some examples of like the chants. I took a picture of it and I still have it on my phone. So an example of like the chants that they were saying were money for housing and liberation, not for ICE collaboration. And then just like a basic like, what do we want? Protection for immigrants, when do we want it? Now. And then some in Spanish like la migra, la policía, la misma porquería. And then pretty much, what else? What does unity do for me? Builds a strong community. And we even called out the chief of police. Because his last name is Lozano, so we just kept saying Lozano resign, because we didn't want this guy in charge of like our police and like dealing with ICE. And then how do you spell race? Is HPPD. And then people power on the rise. Now's the time to organize. And they pretty much like didn't want us to like be in that meeting, because they knew we were going to talk about the ICE issue. And so that's why we started protesting in the first place outside, because our voices need to be heard.
Right. Wow.
Vanessa, do you want to add on?
Yeah. Oops, I'm sorry, my voice cracked. Anyways, so yeah, there was like a lot of protests that we attended based on the ICE issue. I believe there's 2 or 3, but I do remember one of the last ones that we tried doing, they actually canceled the meeting and said that they were talking about, something else that was important, and they didn't have the meeting at all. But that actually didn't stop us. We were still like protesting outside. We were doing chants and getting support from the cars passing by, which is cool. We did have a lot of chants that Cassandra did mention, but yeah, we also attended one in I don't know what city hall it was, but we were there and people talked about their experiences and how their input, they put their input on people getting deported and stuff like that. And specifically I talked about my mom. I was like, I'm a child of an immigrant, and honestly deporting people who have done nothing but try to get a better life, and you know helping others by getting jobs and doing the jobs that people don't want to do and all of that. And a lot of people talked about it, and after that we did start chanting, and then we did get kicked out, but we really made an impact. We put a message out there, we made it and all that. And I think it's really important that us youth get involved and talk about our experiences and help with that, because it makes a bigger impact, and we are the future voters, so it's important that we do that. And yeah, it's very impactful.
Yeah, even though it seems like most of us are like high school age people, but like youth action kind of reaches like even like farther than that, because I've personally met like some like 12-year-olds. I think I even met like an 8-year-old at one point. People like these other younger people, even younger than we are, wanting to know like what's happening and wanting to fight along with us, which is very interesting, because even they see that something's wrong in our communities and they even want to help.
Wow, it's really amazing that
Oh.
like these situations are really not like age limited. Like anybody could like take a stand and say this is wrong, we need to do something.
What are some things that you can do to help protect and preserve the environment and their own communities?
There are like a lot of things that you can do to like protect your own community, but I feel like it starts with like your like being educated and knowing like the impacts that a lot of things that we do or a lot of things around us, how impactful that they are to our community. And by knowing about that, you can well you yourself will be educated on that, but you can also educate others, and by that you can learn, oh, not to support this, not to support that, not to do that. And in turn that will in turn with CBE, what that would do if like there's a lot of like people that are educated on it and know the impact and all of that, it would obviously like lead to protests and stuff like that. But there's simple things that you can do in your community to like little environmental things would be like, oh, not littering, or not using straws, reducing your waste. And personally, I'm vegan because of environmental reasons. Yeah, and I love animals. But it's not accessible or permitted for a lot of other places. So I understand that. But yeah, other things. I mean, there's like a lot on my mind, and the words just don't want to come out. So if y'all want to put your input on it, so.
Yeah, and CBE tries to like offer the youth and like other people like opportunities to be able to actually create change. So like in those protests that we were mentioning earlier that happened, they started off as just like a normal talk in a way. So we pretty much were going for a normal talk. So like when we were going to HB City Hall, CBE actually like invited Youth Edge to actually go with them to City Hall, so that it was like an activity. Because we usually meet around in the office every Tuesday evening in order to like catch up on what's going on in our community. It's kind of like a weekly summary kind of thing. But they decided that week, like, oh, how about instead of like a normal meeting, we're gonna go to City Hall and we're gonna go talk about like the ICE issue. So they gave us all rides, even though it took a couple of like going front and back to get everyone there. So they provide rides for that kind of thing. And with the thing in San Francisco, it was actually like a few people were actually given the opportunity to go and speak about it. So CBE tries to like offer as many like opportunities to these people, and as well as getting educated, they try to like educate us as much as they can and give us opportunities to learn more in depth about these kind of things. So another example is the trip on a lake that they occasionally have, and pretty much they take us up north in California to Mono Lake, and they teach us about like water and where our waters actually come from. And we go and we learn about how to preserve water, why the water is actually important in these areas, and how we shouldn't waste it because it's being taken away from these different places just for us.
Yeah, I think it's quite funny because I took a vacation last week to Lake Tahoe, and I passed by Mono Lake, and then I went there and I saw like a sign that says like, oh, it was introducing like the background of Mono Lake, how like they once directed all the water to like Los Angeles, but then they realized, oh, like this place is really important to sustain the ecosystem of animals and plants, and so they then figured out a way to like split the water so like people from Los Angeles could use it, but also preserving enough to sustain the ecosystem Mono Lake. So it's like, oh wow, that's really cool that you brought it up.
Yeah, it was actually really interesting because we learned that Mono Lake was actually bigger than how we were seeing it. As we were walking towards like a path towards the actual lake to like the shoreline, there was signs saying like, oh, like a specific measurement, like 27,000 something. And we were asking like our guide Santiago, like, what does that mean? It's like, oh, at one point in time, the lake did here. And we were just in shock at how big this lake actually was. And as we kept walking towards it for like another like 5 minutes, we saw where the lake is now. And it was interesting how all this water kind of is gone now because we just kept using it so much that it's becoming drained.
As Cassandra mentioned it, the trip to Mona Lake shows us a lot about where our water comes from, because I feel like a lot of us didn't know that. Like, I didn't know that the water that we get from Los Angeles, it used to come from there. So it really shows how like we're using up resources that aren't really ours. And then I was just gonna like touch a little bit upon what the question was. So I feel like you can get involved in your community simply by recognizing that things that are going on around you are wrong and seeing like how you can help. Because as much as we love CBE and like it's an awesome organization, we also have like a lot of awesome organizations around us that like you can open yourself up to. Like just how I mentioned, it's not just CBE isn't just a tree hugger organization. It's like provide an organization that provides like equality and justice for everybody. So I feel like in some way and form there's a problem in every community, and I think that there's like groups trying to fight against that. So I think that you can just get involved simply by asking questions and making yourself more informed. And then I was just going to say like another opportunities that we've had through CBE is that like some of us we've got to go to Sacramento for like different occasions. Like I went to Sacramento to lobby to the officials there, and lobbying is basically telling like the government officials about like AB like just new requirements that we want to talk about in the bill. And then yeah, so we got to go to Sacramento. And then another part that I was part of was this Power California Fest, which is like when different organizations in California fighting against environmental justice and just like different equality organizations, they gang together for like this big fest. So we were able to like talk with people from this different organizations, and then I was able to be part of a group that was interviewed by like musicians, artists, so just to like tell them about issues in our community. And it was really interesting because like these artists, they were, some of them actually did work in their community, and it showed how like no matter how famous you get, you always care about your community and you always remember where you come from.
Yeah, I really like that message. Okay, so wrapping it up, last question. Is there any big goal you guys want to accomplish before this year ends, or any long-term goal you're looking forward to?
So my personal goal is to get my family aware about these issues, because whenever I talk to them about CBE or Youth Edge or Youth Action, they kind of just see it as like another club, because it kind of is how it became. Because I didn't know about the club until my friend introduced me to it, and I wasn't aware about these kind of issues that was going on in our community at all. Like I didn't see anything wrong with factories being around. It kind of became normalized for me, which already is an issue in itself. The fact that these factories is normal to me. So it became like an eye opener when I decided to join Youth Action, and then eventually Youth Edge, and then eventually CBE. So whenever I talk to them about it, they aren't shocked, but they also kind of see it still as just another club, which is kind of more than that at this point, because I'm not in school anymore, really not in Marquez anymore. So my personal goal is to get them more aware about these kind of issues and to see CBE as more than just another club. And a long-term goal is to create a better environment so that when my nieces and nephews, because I have 6 of them, and they're all small, and I want to create like a better environment for them to be able, I want them to be able to play in a park and not have to worry about their asthma, because one of my nephews have asthma, so I don't want him to be inhaling all that bad stuff if it's gonna make it any worse.
I'll just piggyback on what Cassandra said. So I feel like she touched upon a lot of goals that I have. So like, you know, how Cassandra said, we're not in Marquez anymore, we're graduates. So I think that like something that I want to make sure is that like, even though I'm going to college, I want to like still find ways to be able to be involved with CBE as a college student, just because I feel like it's really important to share the information to people from different parts of life.
Yeah, also adding on to like what Dayana said. Yeah, so like even in college, it's still so relevant. So the small goal for me is that I told myself that I was going to get back involved with CDE. So I started off with being a facilitator for summer training, which summer training is a different is a way for like to educate like the community and the youth, especially to like be able to preserve the whole issues that we're like they're having here, that so we can fight against it. And as well as like a long term goal, I think as a whole, or as like for myself, I would say to be able I would say like as a long-term goal, I would say to be able to like educate my whole community, because I feel like if the lack of resources it is in our community, you know, like we do lack a lot of resources, especially like to educate our community members about like the issues that we're doing. So that's why CBE does a lot of door knocking. We do a lot of phone banking. We do a lot of like different workshops, especially for the community, to be able to educate them on the issues that we like do face, such as environmental justice. I mean, environmental justice. And yeah, so like Vanessa, you want to go ahead and ask?
Yeah, like Cassandra, I I like where I live, but there's like a lot of issues with it. So one of my like long-term goals is to make an impact here. I know that I made I helped, make change here because there's a lot of issues here. There's environmental racism, there's lack of green spots, there's just a lot of things. And I know a lot of times like we're told to leave our communities, to be successful and move on and stuff like that, but it doesn't always have to be like that. I think it's important to acknowledge where you come from and help it grow and stuff like that. So, like I do see myself like moving on from community, but before I do that, I would like to know that I worked with a bunch of other youth people to make it better and help the future generations grow up in a much safer and healthier environment for them. But like a personal goal for me is to get more people to join Youth Edge and CBE because I didn't know CBE existed until like a year ago, thanks to my friend. So I kind of introduced like 2 or 3 people this year to CBE, and now they're interested in it. And it's fun seeing how one person can introduce you to something so much bigger than they could have imagined. Because CBE, I did not know that this organization was like this big, and like it can do like a lot of things and a lot of impact, especially when it's like teenagers and like teenagers working with adults and stuff like that. So yeah, I just really want to show this program to like an organization to other people and hope they join, and they also want to make a change. So yeah.
Well, that's all the time we have for today. Thank you guys so much for joining us today. We really enjoyed being able to talk to you guys and learning about all these like different problems affecting the LA residents and all throughout California. Just bringing attention to like environmental racism, protests, and how youth can make a change by asking questions, standing up, and using our voices. So thank you guys so much for coming. We really enjoyed talking to you guys.
Thank you so much for having us.
Yeah, thank you for being open to our experiences.
Thank you for like being interested.
Thanks for listening. Check us out on Instagram at Earthlinking2020. Check out our website on Instagram. Subscribe to our YouTube channel at Earthlinking Team. Donate to our GoFundMe located in the description box of our first video.
This is Earthlistening. We'll see you in the next episode.